Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be kind of exploring the work and mysterious disappearance of Jacobo Grinberg.
Yeah.
And Jacobo Grinberg is a Mexican neurophysiologist who really kind of fearlessly blended science and mysticism.
Absolutely.
And Grinberg wasn't some obscure figure on the fringes of science. He was a prolific author, published over 50 books, and led some pioneering research at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. But his story takes a truly fascinating turn in 1994 when he vanished without a trace.
That's right. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance are shrouded in mystery, leading to all sorts of speculation.
Right.
Some theorize about CIA involvement. Perhaps his research crossed a line they deemed too dangerous. Others believe he might have chosen self-imposed exile, maybe to protect his groundbreaking discoveries. And then there are those who propose he stumbled onto something extraordinary. Maybe even a pathway to another dimension through his deep exploration of shamanic practices.
Yeah, it's a story that really captures the imagination. But before we get into all of that,
Yeah.
let's try to understand Grinberg's work.
Sure.
Because this wasn't just some New Age guru. This was a respected scientist
Absolutely.
who used rigorous methods
Yeah.
to study consciousness.
Yeah.
One of his key ideas was the Syntergic Theory, which might sound intimidating, but it's actually a fascinating attempt to bridge the gap between science and mysticism.
Absolutely. So Grinberg was really trying to expand our understanding of reality itself. He proposed that our brains generate a neuronal field, kind of like an energy field that interacts with what he called the lattice, the very fabric of reality. Think of it like dropping a pebble into a pond.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Okay.
So the ripples spreading out from the pebble would be our neuronal field, and the pond itself is the lattice.
Precisely. And here's the key insight.
Okay.
Our thoughts, our emotions, our intentions, they all create ripples in this lattice. We're not just passive observers of reality, we're active participants constantly shaping it with our minds.
So what we think and feel actually influences the world around us.
That's what Grinberg believed. And he took this even further. He suggested that the more coherent our brains are, the stronger our neuronal fields become, and the more influence we have on the lattice. By coherence, he meant the level of integration and harmony within our minds. Practices like meditation, which enhance focus and inner peace, can increase this coherence.
So someone who meditates regularly might have a stronger impact on reality than someone whose mind is scattered and chaotic.
Exactly. And Grinberg was particularly fascinated by what he called high neurosyntergic brains, brains with a very high level of coherence. He believed these individuals could have a profound impact on their surroundings, potentially even influencing things like gravity.
That's a pretty mind-blowing concept. But it also raises the question, how did Grinberg try to prove these ideas? He wasn't just coming up with theories, was he?
No, he was a scientist at heart. He designed experiments to study telepathy, the effects of meditation on brain activity, and even investigated the claims of a Mexican shaman named Pachita.
Pachita?
Right.
Now, that's a name I've come across in my research. She was said to perform psychic surgeries and healings, things that seem to defy the laws of physics.
Right. And Grinberg was fascinated by these claims. He wanted to understand from a scientific perspective what was happening during these events. He used EEGs and other tools to try and measure Pachita's brain activity and the brain activity of those she was healing.
It sounds like he was walking a tightrope between hard science and something almost mystical.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
He was deeply interested in Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, and saw parallels between the concept of the tree of life, a map of consciousness in Kabbalah, and his own theory of orbitales de la conciencia, different levels of awareness that humans can experience.
It's really interesting how he was able to weave together such seemingly disparate ideas.
Yeah.
So he believed that through meditation or shamanic practices, we could actually tap into higher levels of consciousness.
That's right. He believed that these practices could help us access a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, a concept that's central to many mystical traditions.
And this leads us to the heart of Grinberg's work, the relationship between consciousness and reality. He proposed what he called the space-matter continuum, where matter, the stuff that makes up our world, arises from a fundamental field of consciousness.
Right.
It's almost like our brains are constantly painting reality with their neuronal fields.
Precisely. It challenges the conventional view that we're just passive observers of a pre-existing reality. Grinberg's work suggests we're active participants co-creating the world we experience through our consciousness.
And that brings us to the question of Grinberg's disappearance. What was he working on before he vanished that might have made him a target or led him to go into hiding or maybe even opened up a doorway to another reality?
Well, shortly before he disappeared, he was deep into research on something he called the transferred potential. It's an idea that gets to the heart of human connection and the possibility of communication beyond our five senses.
Okay, hold on. Transferred potential. That sounds intriguing, but I need a little more explanation.
Yeah.
What exactly was he trying to explore?
He was investigating the possibility that when two people connect on a deep, empathetic level, their neuronal fields, those energy fields we talked about, actually begin to merge.
So like when you feel a deep connection with someone else, it's like you can read each other's minds.
Exactly. And Grinberg was trying to scientifically demonstrate that this connection could allow for communication without any sensory input. Basically, he was exploring the possibility of telepathy.
Telepathy? That's fascinating. But could this research really have led to his disappearance?
Well, imagine if he was on the verge of proving that telepathy is real.
Right.
That our minds are capable of communicating directly across space and time. That kind of discovery would have profound implications, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would challenge our understanding of the world and perhaps even threaten those who benefit from controlling information and communication.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So was his disappearance a way to silence him, or did he perhaps stumble onto something too powerful to be shared? We may never know for sure.
It's a mystery that continues to fascinate and make us question everything we think we know about the nature of reality. But before we get too lost in speculation, let's go back to those orbitales de la conciencia, the different levels of consciousness that Grinberg believed we could access.
That's a great place to pick up. Let's delve into those in more detail.
Okay.
So we've been talking about how Grinberg sought to bridge science and mysticism.
Right.
His concept of the orbitales de la conciencia is a great example of that. He believed that consciousness isn't just one thing, it's more like a spectrum with different levels of awareness and understanding.
Right.
He even saw a connection between this and the Kabbalist tree of life, which maps out a spiritual journey through different levels of being.
Okay, I'm really intrigued by this idea. Could you break down what these different levels of consciousness actually look like? I mean, what would it be like to experience reality from one of these higher orbitales?
Think about it this way. Imagine someone primarily focused on their immediate needs and desires.
Right.
They might struggle to grasp abstract concepts, have a hard time seeing things from another person's perspective, really stuck in the material world. This would be one of the lower levels. Now, contrast that with someone who has cultivated a deeper awareness, maybe through meditation or spiritual practices. This person is more able to see the interconnectedness of all things, experience a sense of unity with nature, operate from a place of compassion and deeper understanding. This would be a higher level.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
So it's not just about gaining more knowledge, it's about a fundamental shift in perception and awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Grinberg believed that we all have the potential to move up through these levels, expanding our consciousness and understanding of the universe. The highest level, according to him, is the conciencia de unidad, which translates to the consciousness of unity.
The consciousness of unity. That sounds pretty profound. What does he mean by that?
Well, he was talking about a state of consciousness where the separation between self and other dissolves. You experience a deep connection with the entire universe, recognizing the oneness of all things.
Wow, that's a big idea. But if we're all influencing the lattice, as he suggests, wouldn't that imply that our individual levels of consciousness have implications for the world around us? I mean, does this mean that someone operating from a higher level of consciousness would actually be having a positive impact on reality itself?
That's exactly what he was suggesting. Remember how we talked about coherent brains having a stronger influence on the lattice?
Right.
Well, individuals who have achieved a higher level of consciousness would have incredibly coherent brains. Their thoughts, emotions, and intentions would be much more aligned and unified, and therefore their impact on reality would be amplified.
So it's not just about personal growth or enlightenment. It's about our collective evolution and the future of our world.
Precisely. Grinberg believed that if enough people could access these higher levels of consciousness, it could create a ripple effect, leading to a more harmonious and interconnected world.
That's a really hopeful thought. But I have to ask, if these higher levels of consciousness are so powerful, could they also be dangerous? I mean, could that be why Grinberg disappeared? Did he tap into something that threatened those in power, or perhaps even stumble into a realm that he couldn't come back from?
It's certainly a possibility. Remember, he was deeply exploring the nature of consciousness, experimenting with telepathy, and studying shamans who claimed to have extraordinary abilities. What if his research led him to a truth that certain forces didn't want revealed? Or maybe he inadvertently crossed a boundary into a reality that was beyond our comprehension. We may never know for sure.
Okay, I have to admit, this is all getting pretty mind-bending. But let's try to bring it back down to earth for a moment. Even if we're not trying to achieve enlightenment or travel to other dimensions, are there practical things we can learn from Grinberg's work? Can his ideas help us in our everyday lives?
Absolutely. One of the most important takeaways from his work is the power of cultivating inner peace and coherence. And that's something we can all do, regardless of our spiritual beliefs or background.
So we've been talking about how Grinberg believed that cultivating inner peace can lead to a more coherent brain and a stronger influence on reality itself.
Yeah.
But how do we actually go about doing that?
Well, there are many paths one could take. But Grinberg often emphasized practices like meditation and mindfulness.
Okay.
These techniques help us quiet the constant chatter of the mind and connect with a deeper sense of stillness and awareness.
So it's about training our minds to be more focused and present, less reactive to every thought and emotion that pops up.
Exactly. And as we cultivate that inner stillness, we become more aware of the interconnectedness of all things. We start to see how our thoughts, words, and actions have a ripple effect impacting not just ourselves, but the world around us.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about Grinberg's focus on empathy.
Right.
How does that tie into this idea of cultivating inner peace and a more coherent brain?
Grinberg believed that empathy is essential for expanding consciousness. He saw it as more than just understanding another person's feelings. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, our interconnectedness at the deepest level.
So by developing our capacity for empathy, we're actually strengthening our neuronal fields and increasing our positive influence on the lattice.
That was his belief. He argued that acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding all contribute to a more harmonious and interconnected reality. In a way, it's like we're weaving a tapestry of consciousness together, and every act of empathy adds a beautiful thread to that tapestry.
That's a powerful image. It makes me think that Grinberg's disappearance, tragic as it was, might also hold a deeper message for us. Maybe it's a reminder that exploring the mysteries of consciousness can be a risky endeavor. But perhaps it's a risk worth taking if it leads us to a greater understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
I think you've hit on something really important. Grinberg's work, and even his disappearance, serve as a call to action. They challenge us to question our assumptions about reality, to explore the uncharted territories of the mind, and to recognize the incredible power we each possess to shape the world around us. They challenge us to question our assumptions about reality, to explore the uncharted territories of the mind, and to recognize the incredible power we each possess to shape the world around us.
But where do we go from here? What can our listeners do if they want to explore these ideas further?
I would encourage everyone to delve into Grinberg's work directly. His books offer a fascinating journey into the intersection of science and mysticism, and they're surprisingly accessible even if you don't have a background in neuroscience.
And if his theories resonate with you, why not try incorporating some of his practices into your own life? Explore meditation, cultivate mindfulness, practice empathy and compassion. Who knows what doors might open up for you?
Exactly. The journey of exploring consciousness is a deeply personal one. But it's also a collective endeavor. As we each expand our awareness, we contribute to a larger shift in consciousness, creating a ripple effect that benefits all of humanity.
Jacobo Grinberg may have vanished without a trace, but his legacy lives on in the questions he raised and the possibilities he dared to explore.
And as we continue to grapple with the mysteries of consciousness, his work serves as a beacon guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge it.